stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll get underway. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sure. Okay. All right. We have actually some folks here from the Greenway Committee, but if I could ask your forbearance just for 1 minute. I think, Ed, you had a quick announcement.
Yeah. I'm here on behalf of the Greater East Hampton Chamber of Commerce. I'm Ed Batchelder, 12 Parsons Way. The Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors formed a legislative action committee, and it's a liaison between our local governments and the Chambers of Commerce. And it's to help and assist any way that we can on business issues that involve businesses in Southampton. I'm the Southampton representative because actually I live here. So it's very active in the Greater East Hampton as well. And it started because there was a breakdown in communications between what we felt the City Council in Greater East Hampton and knowing what the business community and how vibrant it is and important it is in East Hampton. They just weren't being heard. At least that's what the members felt. So we formed this legislative action committee to make the local community aware of our presence and the importance of our presence, and also to deal with issues as they arise. So tonight, I just want to let you know it's there. We are here. We're here for you if you need any help. And just contact the Greater East Hampton Chamber of Commerce, Eric Snyder, the executive director, and we'll send a body in to help, meet with you privately or in joint council, and lend a hand. I also, at this time, I'd like to invite you to our annual meeting. It's a special meeting because it's going to be the election of the new officers of the board of directors, and it's going to also recognize some area businesses. There's a Community Service Member Award, there's a Business of the Year Award, there's a Business Person of the Year Award, and also the President's Award. And at that same meeting, members of our chamber in the area will also be recognized for their merits and milestones, number of years in business, for instance, and I will be recognized as one of those type businesses. So it's January 26th at 5 o'clock at Southampton Country Club, which is not the Log Cabin. And tickets for members are $29.95. Future members are $32.95. I'll leave an announcement with you. Call the chamber because elected officials might get a special bargain. I'm not sure. Can't make that judgment.
We usually do.
We would love to have you there if you can make it. I'm going to leave these with Reggie, and she can disperse them accordingly. And other than that, Happy New Year. Thank you for serving. Thank you for representing me because, I've been there. And I really appreciate you and everything you guys are doing.
All righty. Thank you, Ed.
When is this meeting again?
January 26th. It's,
meeting
Thursday at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
At Southampton Country Club. And
Excellent.
I'll have a notice for you. You can put in your calendar.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Glad to see you. Glad you're feeling better.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're surviving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do every year.
I know. You can't shoot it here, so.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Okay, the next item we have, again, as I said, members of the Greenway Acquisition and Design Committee, and what we're calling it here is License and Indemnification and Specific Authority for the Greenway Committee, which is a prelude to a conversation that we need to have with yourselves, and we appreciate both of you being here. My understanding, just for the rest of the board here, too, is that this committee has been hard at work since they first met, just before the New Year, putting together a lot of different aspects, if you will, of the Greenway project, which frankly is near and dear to my heart. And they need to have a sense of just what authority with which they can act. And, for example, we need to give them permission through Pioneer Valley Railroad to trespass on the property just to walk it, too. Things like that. But there's also a lot of other things as well with respect to funding, with respect to can they enter into negotiations and those things. So I asked that they be put on the agenda this evening so that Mr. Bueller here, as chair of the committee, could be here to talk about specifically what the needs are and have a little bit of back and forth discussion and what we need to do with respect to granting an authority. So that's the background. And might turn it over to you to say, do you have anything specific other than, signing that letter from the Pioneer Valley Railroad?
Sure. What I'd like to do is tie up one or two loose ends from previous conversations, give you a very quick update about what we've been up to so far in these early days, and then just kind of pursue a little further the questions that Jess opened up. Back in November, the select board established a 7-person committee. The slots were filled. We've now met 4 or 5 times. I think Doris would echo my sentiment that it is a strong committee, fortunately, with a pretty diverse range of skills across legal, finance, real estate. We're all both daunted and yet very encouraged just by the quality of the group so far. What we have done is actually, let me take a step back. When you first established our committee, one of the open sort of process questions that the select board raised was whether it was appropriate at this point to, as it were, take the temperature of the town.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It having been more than 2 years since the feasibility study was approved at town meeting. Fortunately, one of our members, Courtney Haff, is also a member of the master planning committee. And Courtney early on pointed out that in fact they had administered a survey to the citizens of Southampton some time ago, which included at least a couple of questions, which we all agreed bear on the issue at hand. So rather than going and trying to take on the time and effort and complexity of doing another survey or some other process to take the temperature of the town, we thought we'd just share these couple of data with you, and just to see if that, to what extent that would satisfy you about where the town might be at. There were 2 questions they posed on the survey. And respondents were invited to express how strongly they would support the following, whatever that might be. The first question was, how strongly would you, how willing would you be to pay a somewhat higher tax rate for the president in order to preserve open space in town? And roughly 59, out of 300 respondents, roughly 59.6% of respondents said they would either be willing or very willing to undertake at least a somewhat higher tax burden for preservation of open space. The second question was, how strongly do you support, I'm paraphrasing heavily now, but the provision or implementation of additional trails, in particular bicycle paths in town? And there, approximately 69.5% of the 300 people responding said they supported or strongly supported implementation of additional new bike paths in the town. So, again, the survey having been done, we on the committee thought that was possibly not rock solid, but that was very strong evidence that there is a pretty strong undercurrent of support in town for doing something in this area. So we, consequently left off doing any other, that's where data gathering at this point. I mean, there will be plenty of time over the coming months and years to take the temperature of the town in more specific ways about more specific issues. Feel free to interject questions, of course.
Well, one of the things, just again to let the board know, because I am the liaison, obviously, from the board to the Greenway Committee, Greenway Design, Acquisition and Design. We're also talking about the name as one of the things as well, is that one of the members of the committee has a lot of experience in land acquisition and municipal planning, actually having served in that capacity for the city of New York at one point. And he's come up with a lot of different possibilities on how you actually approach acquisition of lands for these purposes. So at the risk of people tearing out and doing all this wonderful talent that we have, I just wanted to make sure that everybody has a clear sense of what's going on. And really, what authorities might we grant to these committee members as a committee to make sure that we don't get us into something, and they don't get us something and they have to go before town meeting first or something like that. So I was just looking for a little clarity in this. So that said, do you have a summary of the land things to date? Or- There are several options, I guess that's fair to say.
So, first thing I'll say is that there's also consensus among the members of the committee that before we start thinking about trails, we need to first think about land. And as I think you know, what the Pioneer Valley Railroad has put on the table is the rail corridor beginning roughly a quarter mile in from the Westfield line, running all the way up to Coleman Road. And we, again, it's early days, but we have been exploring different possibilities of how that acquisition might take place. Funding sources, the funding sources that have come up range from whether it be appropriate, of course, to approach the CPC, to what extent there is funding available through the Transportation Enhancement Program, which is a federal program administered in the state by Mass DOT. Whether the extent to which there is still funds tucked away in a bond bill, which were originally appropriated several years ago, and the history of which we're still trying to run down, in all honesty. We're just now getting in touch with Representative Kokot and Senator Knappich. So we're exploring a number of possibilities, but just getting to the issue raised by Jess, one of the things coming up is that at some point somebody needs to begin communicating with the railroad. Mike Renege was in here, obviously, I guess 3 months ago, expressing their at least hypothetical interest in reaching an arrangement. But that's as far as that conversation's gone. And at some point fairly soon, we're going to need to be communicating with them. And parenthetically, I'll say I called him to find out about just getting allowing the 7 of us to walk the trail. And his first response was, well, let me call legal. And that's why you're looking at that. There should be a document somewhere sitting in front of you that requires your signature. They put together a 1.5-page hold harmless agreement, so we just take a hike.
I would like to, at this point, if I may, make a motion to sign that document stating they could walk on the trail and observe and just to generally look at everything.
Okay, do we have a second for that motion?
A second.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded to go ahead and sign in the positive to permit the members of the Greenway Committee to traverse the rail path. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good.
Thank you. I'll get my boots. But then we are, at some point soon, we're going to need to be communicating with the railroad about their intentions, about our intentions, at bare minimum to inform them, at very bare minimum to inform them of our continued interest in working with them to find some kind of congenial arrangement. It's not possible yet for us to say at one point we would need to be negotiating with them, because we're still trying to understand the different funding sources available, what the different contingencies are. But we feel that at this point we need at least a greater degree of clarity from the select board about what our authority is in this situation, vis-a-vis communicating with the railroad, just in order to move this a complicated process along as expeditiously as possible.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any thoughts or ideas about that?
Well, I think your committee's role would be to pursue with Pioneer Valley and speak with them on acquisition and that sort of thing, and then bring it back to the select board and the town, because that's who would have to approve it. It would have to be approved at town meeting. And then, let's say you did find out that they wanted X amount for it or whatever, then try to get some type of assistance from the state and federal government, or see what kind of grants that we're eligible for to try to help us pay for this. Does that make sense to you? So, I think
It was a matter of these.
you got a green light to go, but of course, you can't spend any money without, first of all, bringing it to the select board, and then we bring it to the town. And I think the town, as that survey has said, overwhelmingly, 67% or whatever, is willing to take a good hard look at this. And I'm sure there's going to be many, not battles, but questions, asking why, or can we do this, can we do that, da-da-da. that we've got to iron out. It's not going to be an easy thing, but I think in the end it's going to work.
So concretely, again, there's a little bit of supposition here on my part, because we're still feeling our way in. One of the first things we'll need to talk about with them is not numbers, but rather process. Because the current appraisal we have is plus minus 2 years old, maybe even more, and may or may not still be valid. And one appraisal, even if it is still valid, one appraisal may or may not be sufficient, depending on what funding stream we're seeking. So my best guess is that the first thing we would need to discuss with them is just process around engaging appraisers and how that would work. So is that the kind of thing that it would be acceptable for us to work with them on?
The town
without
would-
committing to spend town money, of course.
The appraiser has to be independent of the railroad, of course, too. So anytime that the town purchases any land, it does need to be appraised, and the town is limited to what it can pay with respect to that appraisal. So that wouldn't be Pioneer so much, except to get from them exactly what they're interested in possibly conveying, because there has been a difference of opinion. Is it 50 feet, 60 feet? Do they keep a pathway for gas pipelines and things like that? So that would be, I think, one of the first things to find out from the Pioneer Valley Railroad is exactly what are they interested in conveying. Would it be in fee simple, or would it be in some sort of long-term lease arrangement, or usufruct,
What?
the right of peaceful enjoyment?
Would it be
The first time I've heard that used in
Would it be proper to give them a license to do all things necessary to prepare for the presentation to the appropriate town authority for the establishment of a bike trail in the town of Southampton?
A blanket license, absolutely.
You know, up to presenting to the appropriate town authority, town board, town authority, I guess is appropriate. And then let them take it to that point.
Is
Whether
that
it's,
a motion, sir?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second that proudly.
Okay. The motion's been made and seconded and to grant the Greenway Committee the broad scope of license to get up to a point at which this project needs to be presented for appropriate funding sources. Is that correct to say, and other approvals?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I have one question. This is a great percentage, 69.5%, right? And your sample is 300. Can you just remind me, do you have any idea how they got that 300 out of Southampton? That's pretty important.
Those were,
Does anybody know?
Is that a random sample?
that was I don't want to say convocation, but they had an open, what did they have? I can't remember what they called it.
Saturday afternoon.
Saturday, where they invited everybody in.
Visioning session?
That's it, visioning, and 300 people must have come through.
It was from a visioning session?
Yes.
Okay.
They did a survey. Actually, the survey was, there were 3 separate meetings at least, because I was one of the vision facilitators. And you had the opportunity to take that survey, at the library, online, and that couple of those days
So it was
too,
administered in multiple venues.
Multiple
not just
venues,
at the
right.
visioning session.
which,
And I can get that, I'll speak with what we have on our committee.
Right.
I'll just get that information.
Right, I mean, any of those, not to put a damper on anything, but, right, any of those venues, if there are people that came for one reason or other, to support or not support the Greenway, it doesn't represent
We
the,
call it sample bias.
yeah, it doesn't represent the community. So it is important if someone could do even a smaller sample size and do some kind of random sampling. Phone, through phoning probably be the best. So to get a real finger on what's pulse, as you say, on Southampton's interest.
Mr. Bueller has significant experience, as do you and myself, in validity of test instruments and sampling. I think,
So
I hear
there
you,
you
so
go.
it's important
Good.
to be aware that, the sample size is representative.
Well, not the sample size, the method of
Construct.
of sampling, right?
Mhm.
So that's just my little input there.
Well, it's important.
Thank you. Fair question.
Just curious. Yeah.
Can I or we answer any of the questions? Members of the select board at this point?
I'm just curious, were you able to talk with folks from the other towns and things as well? I saw in the email, you plan to attend a lot of meetings, okay.
What we find is that every conversation with a new kind of informant generates 3 other people we need to call. So we've reached out to Manhattan, Rail Trail, and Norwood people. I've been on the phone with Columbia Greenway and the engineer in Westfield. I mean, it just grows and grows and grows. And for what it's worth, and again, early days, I have to say we encountered nothing but very profound enthusiasm for what we've undertaken. I mean, you can only imagine the eagerness down in Westfield, where they're, I'm guessing within a year plus minus, maybe less, of initiating construction finally. So the possibility of having something going south, at least in their general direction, is very exciting.
Have you ever spoken to Peter Brooks, I believe his name is, from East Hampton?
You see, every conversation generates.
Yeah, okay, good.
No,
Would you mind this?
Peter Brooks. He's,
What's his role in town?
pardon?
What's his role in East Hampton?
He's on the committee, and he's been on that committee to establish from day one the East Hampton Bike Trail. Fire alarm.
That's for you.
Pardon me?
He's a member of the Friends?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Peter Brooks.
Give him a ring.
He's excellent, and he'll be able to steer you everywhere because he worked from the infancy, from the East Hampton one, to present, okay?
I think it's fair to say our goal is to do the barest minimum of work possible to get this done. We don't
Sure.
want to reinvent anything.
No,
There's so
well, that's
much
why
value in
utilizing
this.
people like him would be so helpful because whatever mistakes they made, they know, and they would,
And it's in their
Sure.
interest for this to happen.
sure.
All righty, great.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for all your
gentlemen.
hard work.
Thank you.
Pass it down the side.
Well, see,
Okay.
you got the first step here. You got something signed. I said you have the first step here. There's something signed.
Now, just a process question, how does that get back to Mike Rennicky? Do I need to do something, or?
Can we send it over to him?
I will copy it and I'll send it. I'll send you guys a copy as well. I'll scan it in the computer.
Appreciate it. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening.
All righty.
Oh,
We're
must have stolen
pretty
it.
close to schedule, and now we have Mr. Greg Franceschi of the East Hampton Community Action Television, is that right, ECAT?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do we look alike? Nancy's a handsome guy. All right, we appreciate you coming by, Greg. You were here some time ago, remember sitting over on that side, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, good to
Before,
see you again.
The room was reconfigured.
Right, right. We've also put in some noise baffles too, which hopefully you'll be able to hear, as a result of which hear a little better. It got pretty noisy and echoey in here,
Yes,
so we're working on it.
made a big difference. Same here, and I have something I'm hoping that we can get signed tonight also, so that we can complete the installation of the government access facility here.
Sure.
There are 3 things I am hoping to, that I was hoping to discuss tonight, but I just found out this afternoon that I've only got 20 minutes allocated, and Tim's put an enormous amount of work into preparing a video to give you guys an idea of the work that's been going on the past 6 months. So I would like to suggest that we postpone the more involved of these, which is the future of ECAT's relationship with Southampton, the franchise agreement, and who your cable access provider is going to be, until the next meeting. First, I would like to clarify for the board what Diana Schindler and I had agreed on in terms of the work that ECAT, which is the anagram for East Hampton Community Access Television, would be doing for the town, and to show you a compilation of short excerpts that, as I told you, Tim has been working on. Then I'd like to ask you for a go-ahead to complete the installation that we started this past year in this space. So, hit it.
Off note, I'd like to apologize to Margaret Walden, whose name I spelled Margaret Waldron. Didn't notice till I seen the building committee plaque when I walked in the meeting, I plan on fixing that. Feel free to yell at me if the volume's too loud or too close. This is what we did with the community calendar. As you can see, we got local pictures in the background, made it a lot more vibrant. It's a lot better than your traditional blue screen that we used to have. kind of brings it more modern. Just a little sampling of some of the things we put on there. Greg, feel free to bring the boss.
But Tim, the application here would be, this is just at the TV channel 5, folks would turn
Yep.
this on?
And they would see the bulletin board and it'd be in full color with nice pictures and this and that, rather than your, blue screen with white characters.
Right, which is kind of staid. Yeah.
And this is just a sampling of one of the art galleries we did featuring some of the kids at Norris. Volume good or bad?
It's good volume, I think. I think, that's me.
Hello, I'm Community Television. And I'm Corporate Media. The channels I own serve as my personal mouthpiece. I tell you what I've told you you want to know. Wow, that sounds really great for you. I carry local programming by local people and provide a forum for diverse community dialogues that anyone can participate in. Really local, huh? Well, I own stations all over the country, so my programming is designed to be generic and appealing to the majority. It keeps my corporate advertisers happy. I connect people to their communities by televising local government meetings and community events, things that would otherwise never be shown on TV. Huh. Well, I can never do that. But hey, everything I show is carefully screened through focus groups gathered from NASCAR races and Walmart parking lots. I suppose you let just about anybody on TV. That's right, we do. Community television makes production facilities and training available to every member of the community, who can then produce their own programming and have it televised free of charge. Well, that sounds terribly unprofitable. Oh, corporate media. It's not always about money.
No other industrialized country has it written down as we do. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. And if it's the First Amendment that makes our country better than all others, it's public access and shows like this and the efforts of all the producers and the people that work with public access that lend vitality to the First Amendment. So when they talk about defunding public access or taking away the rights of the people that work so hard and dedicate so much effort, so much passion to these programs, they're talking about nothing less than silencing the rights of the people. And the fact that our government, in doling out the rights to operate cable companies, felt that it was only fair to give at least some component of those rights to the people. It's programs on public access that put the grassroots opinions there on equal footing with all those other media giants.
Nice job.
Did you do another one? Yeah. Okay, give me some respect. All right. My story begins all the way from Jamaica. Listen to this. At the age of 13 years old, I was walking to my parents' home on the road, and I owned a screwdriver. Of course, I had to be home. Sharpening the chisel, and later on in the month, I decided that I'm going to try to chip a piece of wood underneath the crates. And as I told you earlier on, when I go hiking in the woods, I look for different pieces of wood with holes in them. That means there was a cancer on this piece of wood. And if you notice that it divides two people here. So these pieces are actually called our mercy. And this is a oak tree it comes from. So what I do is I pick up these pieces and I bring them home. And at my home I got a very big collection of wood, different patterns all over the place. So then I feel really inspired, and I live with a piece of wood for a while, and I can see the transformation of the wood. Then I go again.
We're learning that the small cuts you make are better because it lets you have more detail and it helps you be more smooth when you stand it.
All right, and I give you some respect. I love all you guys. I make sure that I'm going to wish you all the success in the future. I make sure that you give the respect to the teachers that have at school. Okay? Thank you.
Everyone read the titles, okay?
I don't know.
To our annual Veterans Day celebration. It has been said that this can only be the land of the free as long as it is the home of the brave. And before you sit the brave from our families, from our community, from the Norse community. It may not be often that we get to thank people for their sacrifice. And that is what today's celebration is about.
Thank you everyone for being here today. This is really an overwhelming honor to be able to come and speak to you today. As I look out at the audience, it's just beautiful to see so many wonderful faces, so many bright, attentive eyes, so many people listening, so many people doing the right thing, so many people showing respect. We've done a good job here at the Norris School, and you're just a wonderful advertising for what we're doing here at Southampton. So thank you, audience. Kids, take advantage of this glorious thing called life. You live in a nation where we, the people, began. Listen, learn, and engage with the world around you. Today and every day, your moment is now.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting us here today. This is a wonderful program. My name is Fred Gibson. I served in the Korean War in the U.S. Army in the Atomic Cannon.
TV must have a short phone from the closet.
My name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I served in the Naval Reserve for almost 15 years. My 2 years of active duty were with your teacher here at different times, just after the Korean War in the Persian Gulf. Thank you. If I may, I'd just like to say, it's not only those who wear the uniform of our country that serve, you families back at home, if you have someone in your family or neighborhood in the military today, you're serving as well by supporting them. I'm sure all of these people will join me in that one. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jack Bryda. I served in the United States Navy for the carrier Essex from 65 to 69. I'd like to say hello to my grandson, Nicholas Smith. And I had 3 children that went through this school system. And I want to say that it's events like these that set this system apart from all the others. Thank you.
The summer of '55 was an exceedingly hot summer. I know at one point when I was working in Westfield that the official temperature at Barnes was either 102 or 103. And it was a hurricane season. And the hurricanes headed for New England.
The first major hurricane of the year rips into the coast of the Carolinas, packing winds of more than 100 As far as we were concerned, it was a very quiet night. But about 5 o'clock in the morning, the telephone rang. And it was Tony Lipsky, engineer of the East Hampton River Thread Plant. And he said, the waters of Mashawanga Pond are backing up into the basement of the East Hampton River Thread Company. So I drove up Route 10 until I got to, I guess, the old timers would call it Coleman's Bridge, where the Manhattan crosses Route 10. And the whole valley was afloat, so I couldn't go through there. So I stopped at my father's house and I woke him up and said, remember this is 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, I think you better come here and we better try to get to East Hampton somehow. And we figured the only way we could get across the Manhattan River, East Hampton is on the other side of the Manhattan, was to walk the railroad trestle across the Manhattan and Gun Road. The two are together there. And that we did, and then crossed the fields near the Red Rock Park there, and thundered right into East Hampton. We got into East Hampton just at 7 o'clock, just in time to see a car drive across, Mashawanga Pond was flooding now, drive across Cottage Street, and almost got swept away. There was a policeman there, and he said that's the last car across. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the earthen dam had completely eroded, and the weight of the pond fell against one of the mills. The river goes underneath the mill, and the facing of that mill in one section collapsed, exposing all the 4 floors. It was an interesting day, and one I'll never forget.
So, I guess I feel like some of you were here when we first started to tape the selectmen's meetings in April of 2009, but in the old town hall, and others were not. So I want to just kind of briefly go over the history of what we have been doing and my conversations with Diana Schindler and the commitments that were made between us in terms of what we were going to be doing. Some of which you've just seen. The first thing we did was get the space at the old town hall set up so that the meetings could be taped live from there, and the option of also having them on your website was looked into and added into the mix shortly thereafter. The goal of expanding the coverage of town government meetings to include school committee meetings, planning board meetings, conservation commission, and whatever other board meetings you wanted to have covered, along with creating a staff position dedicated to creating local programs with and for Southampton residents, was the primary topic of conversations in the many meetings I had with Diana Schindler since that time. But there were a number of issues that came up that delayed the signing of the contract with Charter, which you all know about. And several decisions were made, around the construction with these long-term goals in mind. First and foremost was the decision not to spend the entire budget from your previous franchise agreement with Charter on building this government access facility in the new town hall, because ECAT had recently upgraded most of its portable production equipment, some of which we decided to use in the Southampton facility rather than buying everything new. The reason we chose to do this was that there would be more money available to begin producing local Southampton programming for the channel, and we had this equipment surplus basically in East Hampton. This equipment, the new equipment, which basically consists of the microphones, which are wired through the floor here up into the ceiling and over to the back of the space over there, was done about a year ago, and the engineer that was hired to install it was basically he had to divide the project up into two separate parts. The first part was the audio, and you guys were trying to decide whether the space was going to be configured on this side of the room or over here, and that kind of put a kink in the works. So the original quote that he gave us got broken into audio and video separately, and he completed the audio installation in January of last year. The equipment for the video portion of it was purchased last spring, but it has yet to be installed, primarily due to the transition of Diana's leaving and some things that were not communicated clearly to Reggie and the board that Diana and I had agreed to in terms of the work that ECAT would be doing and plans for the future with regard to Southampton's access channel. The first of these confusions is that I was under the impression that the video engineer I hired to do the audio portion of the installation would be able to come back and complete his work for the town this past summer or fall. But obviously there were a lot of other things that took priority in terms of the transition that was happening. So it didn't get on the agenda until December, and then I was unable to come to that meeting because I was sick, as whatever you guys know. And as Reggie pointed out at that meeting, the engineer had raised his fee for the installation of the video portion because the scope of the project had changed somewhat, and the original quote was only good for 30 days. I did not agree with him that the scope of the project had changed that significantly, and told him this past week that the project could not go forward if he was not willing to do it for the price that he had originally quoted. I told him that we might be able to cut the training time allocated from 4 hours to 1 or 2, since Tim is already familiar with much of the equipment from having used a similar robotic system in East Hampton's new government access facility, and an agreement was reached which matches the original quote for the job, which I'm hoping we can get signed tonight so the installation can be completed. And what that will entail is, over a year ago, Diana and I met with the architect before these walls were constructed to make sure that conduit was in place so that when the wiring for everything, when it came time to wire it all, you wouldn't be having to open up the walls, but the conduit would be there. So the architect put conduit up in that space there, over there, and above your head there in the ceiling, so that the video cameras could be installed and operated by one person in the back of the room. And what I have here is a contract that the video engineer sent to me, which matches the original price that I need to get signed in order for us to continue the work. And what he, to clarify, what he had, the reason that he had raised his price was because of changes that had taken place between the original plan and this. The first being that we broke it up into two separate projects, so he's going to have to come back again. But the other is that these spigots for the equipment, the architect placed them a little higher than what we had wanted them to be, so additional wire mold is going to need to be run down to get them to closer to eye level. We don't want to be looking down on people from that height. So that's one change that happened that changes the scope slightly, but not significantly in my opinion.
Was that wire mold and so forth included in that price?
Yes.
Okay. From the low voltage portion, I can see there's a 120 volt outlet. The box to the side of it, does that have some type of communication wiring which is installed in the wall and going back to there, or?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean when you say communication
Okay,
wiring.
The box to the left, what's in there?
Video.
Video, okay, is
That's-
the wiring already installed?
No, that's what he would be doing, is pulling the wire and putting connectors on both ends and setting up
Okay.
the robotic system in the back of the space here.
Okay, and there is a conduit then from that box for the video going from point A to point B?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And there's conduit for the projector here, also going back into the closet over there.
Okay, good. Good.
How much is the contract for?
1750.
17,000?
No,
Oh, no,
1700.
There's actually,
Installation.
it's,
And where do we have that money? What line is that? Do we have a line for that? Where's that coming from? The peg. So there's money set aside for that already?
Whether it's set aside, I don't know. But they-
Well, I meant there's a line that contains some money that we're going to draw down.
That amount, I think in what we're going to be doing and getting from it, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the contract for the installation of the video component in the amount of 1,750 plus 300, I think, 4 hours. So, okay, any further discussion?
Where's your signature? Yeah.
Any further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and those opposed?
About 3 pages in, Jess.
You got that?
great. So as far as the future of the relationship between the ECAT and Southampton and what kinds of projects we're going to be doing, what meetings you want to have taped first and all of that, can we be on the agenda for your next meeting or the following meeting to discuss that?
Reggie, it's up to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. What's the date?
The next meeting, I think, is the
24th.
24th.
Great.
First thing, 6:30.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Thank you, sir.
We're going live, Tim.
Great, thanks, guys.
Okay. So that will enable us to stream also, is that right? We get the video, or is that part of charter?
That's part of charter.
The coax. Okay, still pretty close to schedule here. Approval of minutes. No minutes to approve. Signatures, payroll warrant. Do you want to read that one?
I'll let the clerk read.
Okay.
Payroll warrant number P12-27, $221,298.85.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Well, somebody has to make the motion. Motion to approve?
So moved.
So move.
Second over here. Those in favor? Aye. Okay, next one is a bill warrant. Let me get you the actual signature here. And clerk, would you like to read the bill warrant as
Bill
well?
warrant number W12-28, $66,503.94.
Motion to approve.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay. There's another one coming by, too. Okay, PCS, personnel change forms and personnel requisition forms. Originals are in signature folder. The first one is Barbara Golden, full-time 31 hours. This is to replace the departed library director. And it's been approved by the department head, by the P-cubed-B, and the finance committee. And I don't know, do I read out the details of that?
There's a parentheses there that said it was voted for 30, but it's 31. What's the asterisk mean?
Please see PRF for 30 hours per week.
What's the little asterisk mean?
That the personnel requisition form, the posting was voted for 30,
30.
but they're putting 31 on PCF. I believe they have funding, but I don't know. I want to say they do.
The question becomes, can they take a posting of 30 and make it 31 on their own? I don't either. Don't know the answer to that. seems like a glaring question they should have answered.
I'm checking through the papers here, Mr. Phelan, and it doesn't say, because this is the PCF, but they're saying look at the PRF.
Personnel request,
Request form.
personnel request form, they posted it for 30,
Right,
and they hired her for 31.
right.
Should we just,
Probably within their
just to be
province to
safe,
do
give,
that.
approve it for 30? And if there's any problem, have them come back?
That seems like the thing to do, and let them square away the extra hour. Somehow. I don't know which is the mistake? Is it the 30 that's the mistake, or the 31 that's the...
There's two mistakes. There's also 32 hours here mentioned in the posting. This is a fully benefited 32-hour position. Then it was crossed out and 30 was entered. And then 30 was entered in the PRF here, so, which we approved October 25th at 30.
Now, and this is just to make it to 31? Is that what this form is for?
Right.
It's, this form is to bring her on board so she can start tomorrow.
Pass it down.
And I know the question was at hand as to what number of hours.
Well, presumably they, I would
It says
trust that they
within
have,
budget, yeah.
they would have that extra $1 an hour.
But I'm not even concerned about the funding. I'm concerned with the legality of the, it was posted for 30 and you hire them for 31, you haven't given proper notice, the purpose of the, maybe it's insignificant, I'm just asking the question.
I don't know. Our options are to have council review it, send it back to PQB.
The other thing is when Jeff was hired, there was a question asked, they were trying to get him more hours, and we could not find the actual PCF saying it is okay for him to work for 30, 31, 32 hours. So, yeah. So that's what they were just going back with Jeff.
I suggest that we approve it at 30 hours, and maybe my motion, and then let them, if it's just as, if it can be rectified, let it be rectified, but let's not make it an illegal appointment.
Yeah. I would second that.
That makes sense to me. Motion's been made and seconded that we would approve this at the 30-hour posted level, and then let the folks more directly involved figure it out.
So moved.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. So we have a majority? Did you-
I know we have to do what's legal, but I was just, 32 hours is probably what she needs to do the job. Minimally, you know, I mean, how much of difference is it gonna make?
It isn't a money issue. The question is whether or not it's a legal, I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I know if you put her on for 30, it's legal, because that's what it was advertised for. And if they can justify the extra hour, I don't have a problem with the extra hour. My question is if you appoint her for 31 and it's an illegal appointment, and then they have to go through the whole thing all over.
I think it'd be the reverse. If they posted it for 31 and then paid her 30 underneath what they posted it for, below what they posted it for, that would be a problem.
But if they
You
advertise it
can
at
always
30
pay
and
more.
someone wouldn't apply for it because it might have been 31, because they couldn't do it, technically you could have got somebody who wouldn't apply because it was 30 and not 31 or whatever. I just don't, I think for the time being, put her on for 30 and then let them straighten it out for the extra hour.
Yeah, if we approve it for that, you know, what it was originally recommended for, and if there's a problem, they can always come back and explain it to us. And
With a PCF.
I don't have a problem, it's just the same thing as
See, the problem here, Jackie, too, is that originally, underneath it was the original posting. It was 32, then it went to 30, so that might have been just a simple clerical error. But I certainly agree with Mr. Phelan, we're putting ourselves in an odd legal position of liability.
Okay, then I'll agree.
Okay, so we have 4, 1 abstention. Okay, so I'll just write in then approved at 30 hours? Yeah, sure will. Okay, moving along then, we also have Catherine Coopy. Do you want to read this one out or have her read it out?
It's the PCF. So this is replaced with a temporary position, circulation clerk. They hired 10/28/11. So new hourly rate, it's an hourly, it's a wage increase. New hourly rate of $9.78. What was the old hourly? Doesn't say the old. How do we know what the old one was?
No, it's or. Salary or hourly.
Oh, sorry, new hourly rate of
Right.
$9.78.
And then you announce that it's been approved by the other committees.
It's been approved by Edwards Library. I can't read, what's that say? Edwards Library. Finance Committee has approved it, and the PPB. That leaves us for approval.
Okay.
Looks like it's a temporary clerk position for, while they're settling down over there. I move to approve.
Second. Further discussion? Those in favor of approving Catherine Coopy, part-time temp until February 14th, 2012, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, and then the next one is, you're getting good at this.
This is
Is Janie Domina continuing?
Domina, Janine Domina? What's that?
Domina. No, I can't do it. Domina.
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 Domina. Okay. Date of hire, March 2006. The new hourly rate of
It's just an extension.
She's the clerk that fills in for the CBA when they have meetings.
Why do they have new hourly rate?
Because that's what she's getting paid, and these extensions expire after 12 weeks, so we have to go through the whole process all over again.
So that's her rate.
Motion approved. So it's important to note, though, that the PQB here says that this is the last time that the PQB will sign off on this as a temporary position, that it needs to be resolved.
Right.
So we need to, I'm not sure to what extent we need to be involved in the resolution, or is this a department?
In the end, you will be. This is the third.
Yeah, the third one. And there was some discussion as to the appropriate, that the position she's being, is this the one where she's being paid?
Right, being paid at two different rates and things like that.
She's, at a higher rate to do, I forget what it is.
Yes.
The higher, she's getting paid higher than the position is scored. She's being paid at her rate in the assessor's office for a job that is scored lower than that job. So she's being paid, their point is that she's being paid a very high rate for the job that she's, in this position. So that the temporary position can't keep going on and on.
Finance Committee has recommended, with condition that, what's that? $505 budget is
not exceeded.
If I may say, the application fee, the $100 application fee comes in for the application. That goes into a revolving fund. That fee is paid, it's balanced out.
It's almost a revolving account.
Yeah.
But the PQB, if I remember the discussion, was that she's being paid at her assessor's rate, which is a much higher rate than the scoring for a temporary clerk position.
Then we need to put this on the to-do list. Yeah.
Well, it starts with the policy board.
Right. Well, actually, it probably starts with ZBA, since they've been told that they've got to resolve this one way or another. They need to post it and get somebody in. The discussion is whether to make that position a stipend rather than an hourly.
That's the question. They did post the position, and they did make the final decision was to hire Janine at that rate of pay, but there was a disagreement between the policy board and the zoning board. So.
Right.
Well, all the departments have signed off with these conditions.
So, did we do that? I'd move to approve the temporary posting, or temporary appointment.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Now we have, let's see, Regina Shea Sullivan,
Who's that?
It was voted on the 27th. I don't know, I've heard the name. I think she works for the Gazette.
Replaces
Works for
Diana.
Yeah, no.
the 12 weeks, chair to sign, that's true. So we actually had voted on this on December 27th in the affirmative to extend for 12 weeks, and I talked with Reggie today also about she and I need to keep moving forward on, defining the job.
Okay,
So
so did we
just need to sign
are
this.
we the only ones who need to sign it? So now I understand why this isn't a new salary. It's
Right.
continuing.
Yep, I signed it, that's all. Okay, then, moving right along. One-day licenses, no town owner agreements. Do you want to read these out while I do this? I'm also the department head, is that right, you told me?
Yeah, you're the department head.
Southampton
You have
Community Development
enormous authority in that
Program.
position.
Where are you supposed to
That
be?
and $5 will get you a cup of
Invoice?
coffee.
Just reading out the number.
Yep.
So this is-
Invoice number, whatever, and the amount.
It's invoice number 8, $1,146.32. This is the Southampton Community Development Program.
This is essentially a pass-through. We act as the administrator.
Oh,
for
this
these
is the
grant funds.
housing thing?
Money's coming through, and then it gets apportioned to Montgomery and a couple other places.
This is the housing improvement.
Yep, housing needs is, yep.
Yeah. Move to approve.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, yeah, we all sign. And we also have, the next one is invoice number 12, the same thing. This is ongoing interaction with the acting town administrator regarding program administration in the amount of $9,362.90. Again, the same process is in play here.
Motion to approve.
Second.
In favor? Aye.
Just out of curiosity, where were these properties?
Montgomery is...
Oh, both of these are up in Montgomery?
I don't know why we're the lead town, to be truthful. Okay, moving along. You're here to talk about something? We have an elevator update, but surely you would take precedence over that?
No, it's the
Rising up.
article.
On the articles for the town meeting?
Special town meeting.
We can flip the order here if you want and say, put the elevator on down.
Yeah.
That'll be funny sometimes. You all want to do that?
I would suggest that since Virginia's been sitting, so our
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been watching you sit there so patiently thinking that...
Our dribble.
Yeah.
Can we move then to action list, review articles and sign special town meeting warrant, and then see the CPC accounts? These each have 3 signatures, so there's enough unless you want to...
You guys can go to jail, I'll miss it. Is this the new updated version of the warrant? Oh, so I can throw my other one away?
First of all, we do have a situation with respect to the special town meeting that I would like to bring up, is that it's contingent on receiving the verification of the free cash. And that right now has not been done. So we have the possibility of requiring a special meeting of the select board because there's a certain time frame that we need to have in terms of posting the articles of the warrant. So we can't approve tonight because the free cash has not been certified.
We know why the free cash hasn't been certified.
DOR? It'd be nice to say. Whether or not it's DOR or here.
I was going to say, is it our end or the other end?
It's hard to say which end it's at.
We're really not prepared for the town meeting. I think we should postpone it now until we find out what's going on with, tie up all our loose ends.
Can I have no problem with that, but can we ask David to come to the next meeting to see where we are? I mean, I thought we set that meeting kind of with, that we were almost,
With the hopes that this free cash would have...
but I thought we were close to having that, that he had a number and
He had a number, he just set that tax rate as well, so he's really been working on it with DOR.
we, just to find out what, so we don't pick another date. We want to postpone it indefinitely and then have a meeting with him and then get a date firm from him and go from there?
Yeah.
That would work. They get a date certain from the town accountant on the certification of the free cash, and then set the date from there. Does that impact you at all? You need to go before the town
before.
The article, there are two articles. One is the one that David Gilson, where he moves the designated 10% into the proper areas, in open space, recreation, historical houses. That is a routine one. We do it every year. It does need to be done at a town meeting. It's usually done as special, and we usually have a special one earlier than this. The other one is the one that is a request by the Parks Commission for funds to begin the work on the Green Fields. I don't know how that might affect the Parks Commission, but obviously we have to wait until there is a special town meeting.
That's right, too.
Yeah, we need to do that the sooner.
We had, there is a time, we're over the time. Remember Ed came in?
Right.
And we're over the time on that one article, but the state said they would accept it from us at least in January.
So the workarounds are to ask the state for more time or to have 2 special town meetings? Or get certified?
It's my understanding that the reason that it was scheduled for the 31st was you have to accept the grant. We haven't heard anything on the grant.
No, but the vote has to be in place.
And my guess is that we probably aren't going to get it. And I think Ed's is too. We have been very fortunate in receiving 2 fairly large grants in not too far past from the parks grants, and that we probably are just going to have to wait a little for that grant. Obviously, the thing to do would be to reapply once we know for sure that it isn't coming in. However, Ed has worked on a schedule by which we could, Parks Commission could begin to do the work on Little Green Fields. And those funds have been approved from community preservation. So it is simply a matter of, at some point, having a town meeting so those funds would be approved and work could begin. Now, obviously, they're not going to start working next week or something.
They would work in the spring, am I correct?
It would be in the spring.
Okay, good. So if the meeting was, let's say, several weeks or a month later than we anticipated, we wouldn't be hurting anything, would we?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Although I think
Gotta have time for bidding.
the bidding might be.
To get work done this year, you're probably starting to run out of time. What is the cost of us having a special town meeting?
But I was thinking too, again, having 2 special town meetings is the thing, but there's a cost associated
Well, we
with it.
could go to a town meeting and then and suspend the meeting, although I've never heard of us doing it, but have a town meeting, take care of the articles we need to, and suspend it from there to continue it until some date.
Right.
Can we get Eileen in here to get an idea?
Sure could. Is she in till 8 o'clock? Would you mind getting her?
I'm just
Would be one meeting essentially.
but you're going to pay for it too.
Yeah, pay for staff, police, constable.
But we would only have to post one, if that, and I don't know whether that's feasible. I've never heard of continuing a town meeting, although we do it from night to night as we need to. So I don't know why we couldn't, but.
It's a long night, right.
Then it would also keep us under the gun to get this free cash certified and come back and do those articles, rather than keep delaying and delaying. But Ed may need, you may need the bidding process to go on.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's unfortunate.
But there's a time lag between bidding the job and execution. And it's maybe more than 6 months.
Have all the job specifications been all set in the prints?
No, I don't think so. I think, I don't know that you're, I actually don't know whether you're breaking ground this year or whether they're just into the preliminary design. We have a design, so, yeah,
I think the plan is.
there is a design, I forgot, I've seen the design.
What Ed did, I wish he were here, but he is on a very needed vacation. What he did was break the work down in what could be paid for by community preservation funds, and what would wait until later, hoping if we didn't get the grant this year, we would have.
I think this may be, yeah, Woodbury Field, this is.
Eileen does not know the answer. She would like to check with Robert Floyd first. He would be the person to have that answer or do research.
Well, we probably gotta make a decision. I asked, I don't know how, does she know how much it costs? She must know how much it costs.
I didn't ask that.
Would you ask her how much it costs? Ask her to come in. Is it all right if I ask her? Eileen to come in. Reggie, ask her to come in.
Okay.
If you would, please. I mean, obviously, we can continue because we go night to night. So, obviously.
It was just a long night, right? In Virginia, the specific wording of your article isn't in here then, right?
It's on the draft.
I thought I had given,
Oh, maybe it's in a separate one that she has, okay.
I had given the article to Reggie.
Okay. Hi, Eileen, thanks for coming in, we appreciate it. We have a possible parliamentary procedure here that we'd like to ask you about. We have a special town meeting, as you know, set for January 31st, which will enable the town to vote on whether or not we will technically accept a grant that we haven't received yet. That's part of some workarounds with the state over there. But what we don't have is a certification of free cash. We also have the minimum time requirement of 14 days on the posting. So we're trying to think of, also we have the weather changing fairly soon. We'll have some bids coming in for the Labrie Field. So we want to make sure that those contractors can actually do the work this year. So that would mean, in essence, we would have the town meeting go ahead with the special town meeting on January 31st, and then during that meeting postpone it until, assuming we don't get the free cash before timely manner, until some later date in February. Is that parliamentary correct? Parliamentarily correct?
Yeah, you can do
What about the cost?
that. The cost for a town meeting, just to print the voters list, and I have 2 or 3 girls working.
But if we do one meeting, let's say on the 31st, do the articles that we have to get done, and then continue it, are you going to have to print a new voter list for the continuation of the meeting?
No.
So we can say, so it's cheaper to do one meeting and continue it than to do 2 separate meetings?
Well,
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
It
Not
doesn't even, it's not even $100 for, you know, with the girls working and,
But if we post the meeting for the 29th and the free cash is available, then we can do it all.
End of story. We just go ahead with everything. We just need to keep that window open if we don't get the DOR back,
yeah.
free cash certification back. So, okay. Well, great.
So
So,
it's, you know.
But it's doable.
Yeah, it doesn't cost that much, so.
But just in my opinion, it sounds like it's better off if we continue it as opposed to doing 2 meetings, because then we don't have to run into all of the.
Yeah, because you'll probably have the free cash within 2 weeks after.
Right, we just schedule it. And
So just continue it until,
did we post that for the school, or did we post it for here? School.
school, yeah,
Probably don't need the school.
you don't think so?
Well, I mean, how many people are going to come in for? I mean, we're going to go there now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because, you
Not gonna
can't
change
get
the
that many in
posting.
here, and
What do we need for quorum? 25.
25.
May I say something?
Sure.
I think there'll be more people there, because the push will be to, I think the word is getting out to SYAA.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And to people who might have a vested interest in the Labrie Field.
Yeah.
I think the Labrie family will be there, and
That's
means
25.
That's
That's 25.
okay. All righty. Okay, so,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
You're welcome.
Then I suggest we keep our meeting on for the 29th, and if the free
31st.
cash is available that night, we take care of all the business. If not,
31st.
31st.
And do you have the draft of language of her article, though, which isn't here?
Oh, it's in your
in here?
packet.
Not on the part that says warrant.
Yeah,
Separate?
It's article number 5. It's on the back side.
Oh.
Transfer
Is that the
this-
130,000?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong number. It is on there, Virginia, my apologies. Yep, okay. Okay, so then what's before us then is,
Next scheduled meeting date so that you can officially sign this warrant so we can post it for the 17th.
17th.
I need to post it on the 17th.
You know, the one for the ball fields is here, but the one transferring your money from account to account is not here. That's the one I was,
That should be with the others. That's one coming from Dave.
David's not, he did not present it. Not yet. That's.
that was the one I was saying wasn't here.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's not ready. He has 2 articles that he's going to present, and he did not give me those yet.
I could give you basically what that will say.
Okay.
we can all,
What you'll be doing is taking from, I don't have the exact.
But that's that administrative one that moves
Yeah,
it
it's
10%
administrative.
from your general funds over to each individual.
It's about $28,000 moved from the undesignated line to open space, another 28 something to historical preservation, and another 28,000 to community housing. And
28,000 or 2,800?
28,000.
Thousand?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, our income last year was only, it's pretty close to 300. So, between the two.
Well, so we need to get those articles from David.
Yeah.
But are we going to stay on track for the 31st then?
can we still do that? I guess is the big question. If we don't have the articles from David, because when do you have to post by?
I have to have it posted on the 17th.
The 17th, which is a week from today. So we would have to meet on Monday night, which is the 16th, which
Monday's
is a
a holiday.
holiday. We could meet on Saturday afternoon.
I may not be in town.
Do we have a quorum that could meet on Saturday, the 14th?
The
Just to-
14th of what?
January? Just to
What time? I could do that late.
late afternoon, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
It's gotta be, it's gotta be.
I'll be in Worcester until, I don't know, whatever, but,
January 14th.
yeah, 14th is Saturday.
I'm here myself. Are you here? You got any time that you could make it?
Saturday?
Yeah.
What time?
5 o'clock? 4 o'clock?
No, I'm the driver. He's going skiing.
I'm going to a place.
And how long
I
will
won't
the
know.
meeting?
Almost 3.
And how long will the meeting be?
Sign a warrant.
Sign a warrant, that's
5
it.
minutes.
Why would it be a Saturday? Why can't we do it on a Friday?
Okay, so
Or
Friday the
Thursday?
13th. yeah.
Or something like
Yeah.
that?
Well, it's
That's 2
posted.
days.
Today's Tuesday. If you guys hold your meeting.
sorry, I can't hear you,
I
Reg.
need- I need 48 hours to post the meeting.
You're
Saturday-
select-
And Saturdays and Sundays and holidays are not included. So if you guys are posting your meeting on Friday, I need to tell Eileen.
Like tomorrow. Yeah, so we can do Friday, good idea. Can you do Friday?
I'm out of play, so I'm not in town.
I'm here on Friday. I need to be done by 6:30.
I will be here early
Friday
in the
of this
morning.
week?
Yeah,
Okay, what time?
5 o'clock.
Well, Reggie's saying in the
I will
morning.
not be available.
What about doing it in the morning if you guys needed Friday morning? I can,
I mean, we're
I
just
can
gonna
meet at
sign
8
a
in the morning
warrant.
or whatever, or
Are
7 in
we
the
just
morning.
coming in to sign something?
You're
Yeah.
reviewing, you have to review the warrant. You want to see what I'm presenting to
We're
you.
meeting.
You want to make sure everything's there,
We
it's
declare a
appropriate,
meeting.
and then you sign.
I could be here at 8 and then I'd have to...
Friday morning, I might be able to be here at 8. I'd have to look at my
I could be here
calendar.
at 8 also.
Oh,
How
torture.
about coffee, how's that?
I gotta look at the calendar. I don't know. It's in the car.
I have to be in Northampton for 9. Actually, 8:30 if we...
So how many people can be here at 8?
I can't.
8 o'clock?
8
I
o'clock
could be
Friday?
here earlier if you want.
Quarter of would be
That's a
great.
quorum.
Yeah.
That's right.
7:45?
I'm here.
Okay,
But I gotta go check a calendar before I can commit to 8.
okay.
You want me to do that now, or you want me to do it later?
You should.
Now would be good if you could.
Then we'd have a quorum without us ladies.
It's gonna be a chauvinist meeting.
The guys that are coming, that's right.
Okay, so sounds like we've made it through.
Do you need to look at the other one, or any questions on the other one?
The other one
The
meaning,
one that you have.
Right here, this
Yeah.
little, see the top?
If there are any questions.
West Mist School Committee. Ed's breakdown of the storm costs was interesting.
So that 741,000, is that it? 482 are all coming from,
CPC.
Reservation from the 2 lines.
yeah.
It's not leaving us with a lot.
Right. It's a big swipe out of your stash for sure, but it's,
Well, we had really had more than we should have been sitting on. It's, you know, we were waiting for a big project.
this is a good one though. I think, it's my personal opinion, it's a great project.
Yeah. Well, we've been getting questions as to why we have this money if we're not using it, and we've been getting questions of when are they gonna get started over there?
Right.
So,
This year it's gonna happen.
we have to
It's huge. Great.
I can't remember what has delayed us.
We
The
didn't get
recession? What has delayed us?
the grants, we did not get a
Grants.
grant funding that we were looking for.
Yeah.
We're talking 8 o'clock on Friday?
Yeah.
Good enough?
All right.
Quarter to 8? I thought you wanted...
7:45 if we could, but. I know, but Doug,
Oh, I think
That's why I waited.
7:45 sounds
7:45?
30 sounds better if you're coming.
7:45. Boy, you feel it.
Quarter of 8.
Okay, 7:45, good. Okay, Reggie, that works for you?
Friday, 7.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna be
We
here.
did it. So we have to, then we will see the hard copy and sign it at that, review and sign at that time in a declared meeting, open meeting.
The only thing I'm going to question now is we have the other, are we going to, the ones that are presented as draft now, are we putting all of those on the warrant? That's the
Right, that's what
next-
we need to take a look at.
That's we need to take a look at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first one is fiscal year 2012 budget adjustments, to see if the town will vote to transfer monies, 2% for all non-union employees.
There's a difference between 19,000 and 10,000 in the attachments. The 19,000, what I did is I took the Excel spreadsheet of the annual town meeting, calculated 2% of all the wages and the salaries that were non-union, and that's how I come up with the 19,000. Then communicated with the treasurer's collector's office. Robin had presented a sheet of all employees, what their hourly rates were, the number of hours that they worked up until December 31st, and it's in your attachment, and that figure is 10,000 with estimated hours, and that's including retro.
So this is a $29,000 number, or?
It's either 19 or 9, but I have a question about, what about your water superintendent? What about your landfill, which I know one employee is included in there? But it's not in the special, the annual town meeting spreadsheet, so.
Because they're enterprise. That's because they get paid, right? Because they get paid out of, they get paid out of the enterprise.
So I did not do that.
Well, this would be one number that you're taking that from free cash, so if free cash turns out to be 0,
But free cash isn't going to turn out to be 0. The government just, federal government just said that Massachusetts is getting their
That's,
funding for FEMA.
but that's separate from free cash.
Right, but weren't we going to have to use some of that free cash? I think we were talking about that.
No, I'm
Yes.
just, I'm saying,
Weren't covered.
I mean, it's one thing to put these numbers there, but if we've had a year when there was no free cash. So, you know, all of these, they're making an assumption, what was the number that David gave us a while ago?
350.
350. And we have not yet dealt with these stabilization fund accounts either, putting any money away for those. There's no article here for that.
And that's the reason why, is because the finance committee is concerned about the storm, how much money, they want to hold that money aside. And that's where you have your breakdown on there with Ed, should be in your packet. Ed's estimating 350 to 400 for the storm. Yeah, it's on the backside.
Which is more than sum total of the free cash.
But what Ian's saying is we should be reimbursed 75%.
But that may be years down the road.
Right. Years down the road? Even if they've just declared that we were...
That's just a declaration. You may not see the money. The last time it was 9 months to a year before.
9 months to a year.
How much more clarity would we have if we considered this at the annual town meeting regarding storm expenses?
We would know that better. I guess my suggestion is that from a fiscal conservative, I would say that we should not spend any free cash for any of these things until we know the lay of the land. Especially, we know we've got a big bill coming of $300,000+ for snow removal. That may get reimbursed at some point in time, but who knows when? You know, I guess I'm torn on these.
So am I, man. I think certainly as a concept is recognizing the tremendous labor, efforts that people put in the town is absolutely worthy. At the same time, my concern is in listening to Ed Cawley sitting over there the other night and his printout here. How are we going to pay for that as well?
And don't forget, we only get 75, on the good side, we may get 75% if he's right. And some of it's going to be unreimbursable anyway because of the way the FEMA works. The trees that they're going to come up with some number, we hauled away 1,000 yards of brush. They may only calculate that 75% on 500 yards of brush because it's private brush or whatever they called it.
Right.
And they aren't going to pay for any hours in the regular workday. They're only going to pay for overtime. So they're not giving you anything for the time that the guys work during the day of their shift.
Right.
And I think it was only for the first 72 hours anyway, right?
That's what Ed was saying.
Yeah, so you're only going to get reimbursed for the first 72 hours. There may be a grant later on that pays for other things, but right now the money you're getting is only for the first 72 hours.
So should we wait till annual town meeting then to decide?
Well, we can put these on. The question is, are we going to put them on the warrant? And then if responsibility says pass them over, then we'll have to pass them over.
If we don't know free cash?
If we don't know free cash, or we want to hold free cash, because you haven't put any money into stabilization in years. We've only drawn it down to stabilization accounts.
Maybe we should have a meeting with Ed and the Finance Committee?
Don't have time.
We don't have time to do that.
Time?
We voted on this article a few months ago, and at the time and now, it seems like an appropriate thing for the town to do. And again, how can we fund it? Given that the storm happened after this. So I don't know. I'm really torn, as Michael is as well.
Let's see where we are.
Well, the question is, do you want to put the article on the warrant? And we can always pass it over. And then, but the rub of that is you're going to have the town hall or town employees there, and if we say pass it over, then they make a motion to bring it anyway. So.
True, which is fine. That's obviously within their rights to do that.
What will we know by special town meeting that we don't know?
We might know
now?
free cash. We might know it's 300,000. We might know it's 500,000, or it's 100,000.
What if we don't get free cash by special town meeting? And I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I'm just putting
I
it.
don't think we're going to get it. Then you pass all these over.
Okay.
Pass over this one until that
Okay.
next.
You're going to pass them
one.
all over.
Yep.
They're all free cash items.
Yep.
Okay.
The only thing we have to take is that vote to accept the grant.
Right.
and to do the CPA. And then actually, when the finance committee was here, they were recommending putting some, I think either they or I talked about half of whatever free cash was to go to stabilization.
Okay, so we still have the question in front of us is, do we want to continue with this article in the process of the meeting or meetings as they may or may not occur? That's pretty easy.
Make a motion to keep it on as of now, and we can take it off later if need be.
You can't take it off.
Based on the
You can
information,
pass it over.
pass it over.
But parliamentary, we're having trouble with these words tonight.
Parliamentarily, I think.
From the floor, they could bring it, they could overwhelm the,
If they do, then that's life.
We'll have to find it, budget it.
It's happened to us before, and if that's the will of the body, then that's the will of the body.
just want to make sure that everybody's aware of what may happen.
Right.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to keep this article on this warrant that we are considering. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I don't know if this is a good time to say that now that you guys voted on it. It's something to bear in mind that contracts are due to expire in June 12th, and that's quite a few people, so.
Yeah, but they aren't affected by this.
No.
These are only the non-union people.
Correct.
Right, we will be affected, though, as the budgeting authority.
But they'll know that.
They'll know that there's,
that's where I'm going.
right, they'll have a benchmark to go for.
Right. Okay, well, so Dodge City for you. Okay, the school committee has a warrant, has an article here on the warrant to add an additional $12,500 to the budget for the Norris Elementary School transportation to defray the additional cost of regular bus transportation.
Have they given us any idea where they are with the rest of their budget?
Do you know anything?
I don't know, because I'm waiting to see what our budget is before I go to their meeting, so that when they ask me about what we're thinking about, I'll have something to say.
Well, no, I didn't know whether, I mean, they're looking for 12 for a certain line, but whether they're, let's say that they've got X number of dollars in other accounts that they're not using, and we're going to fund this bus item, and then all of a sudden they spend their money on other things,
Well, I think they try to be pretty careful asking us for anything because we regularly turn down, so I would think that they've thought about this and that I would vote to
I just asked the questions.
request, to accept that request.
So you would move to put the article?
So I would move to put the article on the warrant.
I second that.
So, okay, motion's been made and seconded to keep Article 2 on the warrant as drafted. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, one abstention. Okay, Article 3, fiscal year 2012, of course, budget adjustments as proposed by the Select Board. In 2011, we also voted on it special town meeting. Sorry, voted at special town meeting. Not put on annual town meeting, missed. I think it should say December 14th of 10 rather than 11. So to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $10,000 from the ambulance fees account to the police department wages account to fund EMS and ambulance-related expenses.
That was to do their stipends and to help boost the police account a little bit.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 4, capital that was not funded at annual town meeting, if not approved, Ed will request it again for the annual town meeting. This comes from the highway superintendent to see if the town will vote to transfer in the amount of $60,000 from free cash for the purchase, should be of a street sweeper, you need to have the word of in there, to be used by the highway department or take any other action relative thereto. Note the mower is shared by other communities.
I put that there because both Finance Committee and I thought we were confusing the sweeper with the mower.
Oh, the mower, it says, right. Excuse me, I said sweeper, didn't I?
The article's for the sweeper, but we already owe a mower. We already share a mower.
We share a mower,
Right.
correct.
Motion to approve.
I'm still confused by capital that was not funded, so because he was in his capital budget, but because we don't have any capital improvements, yeah. But he's looking to take $60,000 from free cash for that? Free cash is going. That's the purpose of that capital.
That's a capital expense. It's a capital item, the way I understand town accounting. It certainly would be in the corporate world.
Well, he could seek a debt exclusion for that, because it's a capital.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Say that again?
I see, buying that piece of equipment is something that could be done with debt, under a thing called a debt exclusion. The town is limited how much debt it can incur. So taking $60,000 out of free cash, which is the closest thing to cash that we have in the town, is risky because we don't have any other sources should we have another emergency. So what Mike is saying, if I may speak for you, is that we may be able to present this as a debt exclusion to allow the town to borrow the money to buy the sweeper and not take it out of the cash.
It would increase, then we could go outside our 2.5.
Right.
Okay.
So should we rewrite this for the funding? Or?
He would request it at annual town meeting if we don't approve it tonight.
Which is, I think, should probably happen. You know,
As for the debt exclusion.
I'm not sure that's what he intends to do, but $60,000 out of an unknown free cash number that
He's already shaking.
you already spent 20, 30, you've spent 30 of whatever number is coming.
So we need a motion one way or the other.
Make a motion to submit it.
Those in favor?
Aye.
3 ayes, I'm a no.
I'll be a no.
2 noes. The motion passes by majority to approve Article 4. Article 5, fiscal year 2012, again, coming from Park Committee and Labrie Field Committee. This is one that I misread earlier. This is what Virginia is talking about. And this is the monies coming from the CPC undesignated account and the open space recreation account, 2 separate amounts that together total $741,482 to be passed over to the Park Commission to be used to develop the Labrie Fields.
Since there's no negative effect on any taxes or revenue, I move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the last article, which the Select Board voted to support the repairing of the speed trailer. So we are being asked to vote, asking the town to vote to transfer the sum of $9,000 from free cash, again adding to that total, to police expenses to cover a variety of unexpected and unfunded costs this year that include academy and medical costs for the new officer hired last year, which begins in February, which we knew about, the repair of the vandalized speed trailer, which is a little ironic, psychological testing for 4 part-time officers, Irene and snowstorm fuel costs, and an overlooked service contract for the portable radios. Coming from the police chief.
Motion to approve.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Are these emergency, are these dire needs? I mean, what's a speed trailer and?
That's the thing that tells you how fast you're going.
Oh,
It's that
yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that you blink, blink, blink. You can throw baseballs at it and see how fast you can throw a baseball.
Right, no, it does slow me down.
You can also, if you're running, you can see how fast
Yeah,
you're
it'll pick you up from jogging.
Yeah, I've done it, jogging.
What?
See how fast
Fast you're going. It'll measure how fast you're going. On Pomeroy Meadow, it's a great help on the summer when he puts it down on Pomeroy Meadow.
This isn't for the speed trailer, it's all sort of miscellaneous things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Academy
free
Medical.
cash. Our valuable free cash, why aren't we having that same?
We are. We're having that same debate mentally right now. Because it's the academy and medical costs for new officer hired last year.
We knew that was going to happen, that cost was going to bump up as a result of that new hire. He did tell us that.
Do we know how much this vandalism of the speed trailer was cost?
No, I don't.
Psychological testing for poor part-time officers seems like that.
Shouldn't cost that much.
And
Oh, Irene and snowstorm fuel costs. I was thinking, which Irene are they talking
FEMA,
about?
that should be coming out into,
Storm Hamlin.
so we get that money?
Service contract for the port over here.
He went to the finance committee and asked the finance committee
For
for these items, but they did not. vote
Oh,
on
they
it.
asked, he asked for a transfer?
Yes, they didn't give him an answer either way.
Oh.
So he's trying to get things done.
The finance committee didn't answer him either?
No, he went to them for a transfer from their reserve account, and they evidently either just said no or didn't give him an answer.
Yeah.
So now he's trying free cash way.
So we could ask for a breakdown, we could ask for, we can refuse, we can
What's the most
approve.
important thing,
Right.
items?
Mhm.
I mean, the speed trailer may have to get, I mean, I think it's a valuable thing, but if the speed trailer is $5,000, then I think it may have to get put away for a while.
In terms of timing, well, again, it's a free cash item, so
Oh, we have to wait until we know how much the cash is, right? With the rest of the things we're putting off.
20, 30, that would be 40,000 of your free cash.
How much?
Well,
40 with the 9,000?
With the 9. And in round numbers.
Would it be more with the mower? I mean, with the sweeper?
Didn't we, we voted the sweeper?
Yeah, you had 3 yeses.
Oh, excuse me.
2 no.
So it's $100,000 of a possible $300,000.
We need more.
There goes your savings, sorry.
There goes your savings.
So what are options then with respect to asking for more information and timing on this article? I mean,
Well,
some of these things need to be paid if they're incurred
we
expenses.
could leave it at 9 and go to the meeting and move to amend the amount to something less than 9. If we get a breakdown.
You want to make that a motion?
I move to leave the article on at 9.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor?
I also ask that we request from the police chief a breakdown of these various expenses so that we can make a decision.
Who will move, volunteers to move to reduce the 9,000?
Once we get the
They
break.
pay you the big money to sit at this table.
At the town meeting?
They pay you the big money to sit at the table.
That's why you're here, Ann.
All right.
Because you have the fortitude to say no.
I can do it, I can do it.
I would also move to approve the article that I would anticipate coming, that is the administrative article to transfer the funds from the CPA account.
Thank you.
Second.
Those in favor of approving the administrative article to come? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I got a question on Article 4.
Sure.
Can I interrupt you, Reggie?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. On Article 4, when we're at the town meeting, because somebody brought up an interesting point here, to see if the town will vote to transfer in the amount of $60,000 from free cash. At the town meeting, could someone change this to, from free cash to another avenue of funding or whatever?
Floor motion?
No, I don't think so.
In other words, we're very concerned about depleting the free cash we have, blah, blah, blah.
If you're thinking that they could make this a debt exclusion, I think there's more steps required than you could accomplish at a special town meeting.
I agree. Yeah, I understand your point, Doug. It's well taken, but I think Michael's right. We would need to, in terms of procedures, do
Sure.
several different things. Well, we can make a floor motion to amend it and say, yeah, that would work, instead of free cash to fund it through a debt exclusion.
Yeah, but I forget the steps you have to go through. I apologize, but I don't remember. I forget what you have to do a debt exclusion.
Maybe we can figure that out beforehand and be ready.
So if we were to go through a debt exclusion, would that mean that the taxpayers are automatically, let's say they were to approve this, that then we would go to a debt exclusion for this? In other words, we would get it from other
No,
source?
if you approve the warrant the way it is, it's coming out of free cash.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can amend it to be a debt exclusion. I forget the rigmarole you have to go through for that.
Yeah, 'cause that requires a two-thirds vote of
We'd have to bond it, and then you'd have to, there's a number of steps that we haven't done it in a long time.
True.
It'd be similar to what you have to do when we did the schools and all of the other.
Okay.
Town hall.
Big
It's
deal.
kind of like Prop 2.5, because it is related to that.
Yeah.
Debt exclusion excludes the debt allowed under 2.5.
I see.
Okay. Well, do you want to keep your vote the same?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good.
All right. Okay, I had one other
I
thing.
have a question, sorry. So what would you guys like to put for savings from the free cash?
You can't. Which leaves me uncomfortable, because that leaves all that free cash out there for someone's motion to spend it, but I don't, with the storm costs hanging out there, I don't, if all of these pass, and David was right with 300,000, you've got $200,000 left to cover a $350,000 debt.
But he didn't know for sure. And I think he was being conservative, and I think he said 350.
Okay, you've got $250,000 left to cover a $300,000 debt.
Doesn't quite make it.
In any parlance, you're short.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're gonna know at the meeting where we're at.
No, we're not. You can't, if we don't have a free cash number, you can't vote any of these articles.
Anyway.
So then we just explain it to the people that we.
They all have to get passed over. The only ones we'll do is their CPA number.
Yeah, that's good.
But what are you gonna do if the free cash number is 200,000? And you've got $100,000 worth of articles here.
What are you gonna do if it's 500? Yes, come on, he's gonna, yes.
Santa slid down the chimney once this year. He's not gonna come back again.
No, Santa's coming back.
The glass is half full, the glass is half empty.
He's like,
I'd rather plan for the worst and be very surprised by good luck, but you're not gonna have 500,000. We've only seen these numbers go the wrong way most of the time.
Well, I heard some of the residents of Southampton were going to donate a sizable amount of money this gentleman here. Did I hear that correctly, sir?
As soon as that lottery number comes up.
Okay.
And since I don't gamble,
Not
the
gonna
chances are nil.
Yeah.
No, if we don't have it, we don't have it, then we just recommend to the people, they don't approve these things.
But I don't have a problem if you don't have any. My question is, if you have 100, 200,000, are you gonna spend all of it on these articles? And leave yourself out there with a minimum of $350,000 in debt, not knowing how much of that may get covered?
Oh, 'tis true, 'tis true.
you don't make a decision till we know.
Right. I mean, if it comes in at zero, it's a very easy decision. If it comes in at 500,000, it may be an easy decision.
I wanna see you smile like it does, though.
I would not be a gambling person on that bet.
Okay, thanks to all of us for going through those articles of the warrant. Anything further on that before we move on to the Council on Aging letter? Okay, the Council on Aging Board has interviewed Dorothy Putnam for the vacant board member position at their meeting on January the 4th. They've recommended that she be appointed, and please find attached her letter of interest signed by Jennifer Peliquin, the Director of the Council on Aging. She had to resign a few months ago for health reasons, but her health has been improving, still has a way to go, and she talked to the members of the COA board and herself and would like to be reinstated.
Motion to approve.
Is this one of these, is it a joint meeting to appoint her? It's, we appoint her? Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to slow you down, Doug.
It's all right.
Dorothy Putnam.
I can stand to be corrected any day, no problem.
How come this is the only one that we don't jointly appoint? Why is that?
You guys appoint the whole council on aging. They're not an elected.
Oh, they're not elected. Sorry about that. That's where it is.
I think
They
it's-
recommended it, but appointed.
Personally, I think it's great to have somebody want to come back and
Yeah.
stay busy.
Yeah.
No, I forgot that they're not elected.
Sure.
Move to approve. Beat you, Doug.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye, all right, she's on. Okay, we have succession planning for various departments. That's an ongoing issue.
I'd like to hit on the succession planning, if I may,
Sure.
sir.
Mhm.
Can we do something, we've talked about it before, but it's going nowhere as far as I know. How about a deadline of 1 month for all of the department heads and those who have succession, blah, 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 to submit a plan? In other words, who is going to be who in their department could take over if they were to, anybody can die, anybody can get sick, anybody can, it can happen.
Do we even know who would step, I mean, the police department, we know who theoretically steps in. But other than the police department, do we know who steps in to be second in command?
We know who was not able to in the Irene storm, in the fire.
Well, that's why I was in a roundabout way getting to that point.
So, we don't. I think Doug's
Well,
point
and-
is wonderful.
Right,
Absolutely.
well, and even in Ed's case, who comes on board and let's say something happens to Ed?
He has a deputy.
There's two folks right now that are sharing that position.
Do we know who they are?
Bill Toledo is one, right?
Roger and,
Roger
Roger
Ball.
Ball and Todd J. Ross.
Well, if they all submit someone that is capable and competent and trained to do their job if, in their demise, if they are not here.
And they want to.
Right.
That's the other option.
And should this also go out to people like Eileen?
She's elected.
And she's retiring.
So what would happen if she passed away today, hypothetically, or she got sick or got in an accident?
We'd appoint
Special election. Yeah, we would appoint somebody until a
Temporary.
special election.
Okay, do you think Reggie should look into seeing if there's any other people besides fire, highway, police?
There's a lot, there's the accounting, sorry.
Is what?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few people that are within, if you look at your 5-year plan,
There's a lot of retirements coming.
there's a lot, honestly.
We're gonna start doing something now to, and that sounds really, really good, but what happens if something happens to somebody
Well,
that's...
the simplest thing is the October snowstorm. You know, someone's in Florida on vacation and can't get back.
Right.
You know, something so mundane is,
Yeah.
Well, he didn't leave appropriate.
I think we should have do we have a list of department heads and their assistants?
Yes.
We do?
And we have their date of hires, yes.
We have a designated stand-in for them?
Not everybody has one.
I guess that's the point here.
So maybe each department needs to write up, as Doug suggested, what their succession plan is.
Because if somehow communications broke down, you as chairman, who would you know to go to? How would you get a hold of that person?
I think Doug's point is absolutely right on. And I've been talking about it for a couple of years.
Hallelujah. No.
Here we go.
Just think when we go out live, you can start singing to the choir.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice enough being live.
So, we're in budget season right now, so the department heads are busy meeting with finance committee this month. I would suggest pushing it out a little bit into February.
Sure. And should Reggie look at this and report to us which ones are applicable to this?
Is there anything in the FEMA or the MEMA? Not the FEMA, what's the thing I'm thinking of?
Emergency management?
Emergency management plans that have these? They should be designated in there, in the emergency management plan, who the hell we go to.
Right.
Why don't we look at that? Why don't we schedule a half hour, an hour to look at that in one of our meetings before we go out to the department heads?
Better idea, yes.
Yeah, get our act together first.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's put that on some meeting in the near future to look at that. We all should be more familiar with that than we are. Have you ever looked at it?
I glanced at it, yes, in Reggie's office, just after the storm, we were figuring it out. We had a bunch of people say, don't you have a storm emergency plan? And we certainly do. We told them they could come in and look at it at any time. It's a big thing.
Yeah, no, it's a loosely folder. But
And did it designate certain people to take over?
Well, we're going to find that out specifically.
it's ISIS, that's what it, incident management.
I know what you're talking about, yes.
Isn't it?
I see.
I was always supposed to, as chairman, I was supposed to go, and you probably supposed to go too, but it's just, you're supposed to be certified. It wouldn't hurt that most of us be certified then.
Certifiable.
ISIS, the Greek goddess, she's an old girlfriend of mine. Okay, so you okay with that then, Doug?
Wonderful.
Okay, so we're going to, first step then will be to schedule a half hour, 45 minutes hour to discuss excuse me, the succession as it exists now for emergency conditions.
As it exists now, who is the supposed backup of the emergency plan, as Mike is saying?
And also in actual fact, it was,
Yes.
well, we don't want to talk to them yet, but what we know about them.
Right, right. Okay.
Okay. What else do we have here?
Can I go back to
The elevator, right, we're going up on the,
the update on the elevator is, Ed communicated with Bill Collins and Mickey over at the North School. They are in a rollover period with their elevator. They do have a lift, and they are going to, with your blessing, of course, seeking bids. They would like to see bids for an elevator.
those are the inspection,
Yes, yes.
so not the state inspection,
Yes.
but the maintenance.
Combine the two of them, two town
Combine two,
elevators.
absolutely.
Absolutely. How smart are we?
Economies of scale, just like Walmart.
Right. I move that we associate with the school department to get a bid for both elevators.
All right.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, well done. Okay.
Ask a few questions and we find out information.
Okay, so then that is, we
We're
have
good.
building use policy.
Maybe you skipped over veteran service officer.
Veteran service officer, and there's a letter here from the town of Huntington to the mayor of Northampton.
Well, Northampton never responded back to my questions as to what it was going to cost the town if we did join on. Yes, the first year's free, but what's it going to cost afterwards?
In light of not having any information, I suggest we pass over that issue.
Right, table it.
Well, it has a deadline if you table it.
When's the deadline? Well, if they didn't give us an answer,
They didn't give us an answer.
when's the deadline if they,
I said 13th.
January 13th?
Yes, January 13th.
Then they lose. We're in the mode we're in for now because we don't have the information.
I will say that Huntington already turned it down. Okay, so what was
Move to pass the veterans officer over. The
Second.
further
regionalization.
discussion to pass on or decline the City of Northampton's regional veteran service officer? Those in favor of passing on it?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Did I miss anything else?
We on New Town Hall?
Updates? Yeah, we're done there.
Okay, I'd like to ask something. I heard this, I don't know if it's just a nasty rumor or there's any validity to it. I heard that Joe, our custodian, was going to put in for vacation that he had earned, blah, 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 and the Personal Policies and Procedure Board said, no, he couldn't take this time or whatever. Could somebody explain to me what's going on?
My understanding was it was fiscal year 13 that the vacation belonged to.
It was what?
Fiscal year 13, which would start in July of this year.
Oh, so,
And he wasn't working into the year.
oh, okay.
So, I don't remember all the technical reasons, but that's, he stopped working December.
Officially January 3rd.
Okay, well then, my memory was it was December, but anyway, because he didn't work into the required period, he hadn't really accumulated the time. Someone else was going to, Ed or somebody was going to look at it again. But that's my memory, it was turned down.
Okay, so we're going to look at it again.
I think that's what's happening. It was turned down because the feeling was that he hadn't worked into the appropriate pay period to accumulate the new vacation time.
And would he have to work up until July to accumulate that?
I don't remember.
No, not really. We had a recent issue with the departing town.
Okay, because our fiscal year's July 1 till, June the 30th, blah, blah, blah. So he worked half a year.
So, right, so what is the issue? Is it working half a year, a majority of the fiscal year, or is it working into a calendar year? So that's what we don't know.
Yeah. Oh, okay, can we put that on the agenda to review next? Well, who's going to make that determination? Personal Policies and Procedure?
They were trying to.
When are you guys going to meet?
Your next meeting, I don't think is for a little while.
Yes. There's nothing going on right now. That's my I must have been to the December meeting, right? So I don't think there's one scheduled for January that I'm aware of.
And I think if it was postponed or rescheduled.
All right. Because usually it's like the third week in the month.
Oh, that's good, okay. So could we put it on the agenda after that? Hopefully we'll get an answer, and that way we can address this.
I think the answer right now is he's been turned down for it.
Right.
And they were, I think Ed was going to meet with him and talk to him about it, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly where it was left, but Ed was,
Well, what Joe is looking for is an official vote from the policy board stating that they declined to give him his earned vacation time for FY13. That's what he's looking for. He would like to meet with you when he comes back from Florida to speak his piece, I believe.
I think that's the key, is 13.
What is he looking for, like half of his vacation, because he worked half a year, is that?
That's what yes. He worked from July to January 3rd officially, and yes, he believes he earned that vacation time for FY13. Yes.
Which starts on July 1st.
All right.
And his philosophy is, which he's claiming when you begin a job, you don't get your vacation time that first year. You earn it. You earn it for the future.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying. That's where his point of view is.
But see, he's jumping into 13.
I understand. So, okay, in other words, in order to qualify for vacation time, you've got to work that calendar year, 12 months. Is that what the...
Well, I don't want to say because I'm not the expert.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we just wait and see what's going on? I just heard the rumor.
And remember, there's a discussion going on.
Well, okay, so I heard it, and that's why I wanted to bring it out and air it out and try to do the right thing, whatever it may be.
But it's also prorated, if I'm not mistaken. Full-time is prorated for a certain number of months that you work. You get a certain amount of time. You earn that. Do you know? What
I think the Personnel Policy Board is not done with the issue, shall I say that?
No. Okay, well, that's good. I'm not trying to put anybody in a bad position.
I don't know all the minutia. I do know he was looking for 13, for vacation into fiscal year 13. And if I remember correctly, the thought was he had not worked into the pay period to get, if I'm saying it wrong, sufficiently into the period to collect the time.
But this is something I think you guys need to look into, especially if you're going to review your succession plan, and folks who may leave prior to July 1st who have like 5-6 years vacation.
Yeah, does a person, a person after, let's say, a year gets 2 weeks vacation, let's say that's the way it reads. After a year, gets 2 weeks vacation.
Service.
And then after 5 years gets, blah, blah. So if you work a portion thereof of a year, do you get a portion of the vacation, or you get none because you didn't complete the year? That's probably the question.
Is one question. I think the easy. No, I think the easy question is if you work from this is putting Joe aside because he worked on January 3rd. But if you work January 1st to December 31st, you work the year. So the next year you qualify for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But if you work June 1st to May, whatever it is, do you now qualify? When do you get your vacation?
Yeah.
It's easy when your beginning and end period is a calendar year.
Yeah.
It's harder when it's a split year and a fiscal year on top of it.
It's a really very good question, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Really.
But he's retiring, right? So this is a different situation.
Well, it's no.
In a way. If he's earned it actually by working.
But the point was the Personnel Policy Board took a position that he did not work to earn into the year to earn it.
Which is different. Different
But
issue.
I think because how long has he worked for the town?
12 years.
Almost 14 years, 13 and a half years.
Right, so I didn't want to say 13.
Well, does that include the time of the highway department?
I mean, it seems like there should be something
You worked for the highway
done.
department before
Somebody
you
should move to be flexible with that last.
You can't be flexible with your personnel policy.
Well, you have to have one first that's very clear and well-defined.
But you can't be flexible.
And otherwise...
You can't just say you want to give somebody money because you like them.
Well,
I didn't
You know,
exactly say
I've known
that.
Joe my whole life, and I feel bad, but when you look at the print, it looked like,
Why don't we see what the Personal Policies and Procedure Board does, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just wasting our time.
Right, we're gonna have to move on from this, if that's all right with you all? Okay, we're moved on then, punch list, senior center, open house, building use policy. Reggie, you'd given us a draft to
I gave it
review.
to you at the last meeting,
Yeah.
however, I did not copy it and put it in your packets. Oh, but Mike.
see, I have mine. Did you all bring yours?
I actually looked for it before I came down, but I didn't.
But you didn't bring it.
I didn't bring it, no, sir, but I will.
I had one question on mine, is if in the judgment of the town clerk, who anointed her?
Because she schedules, she
Oh.
knows who, what meeting.
Okay, I just wondered why she got to be chief cook and bottle washer.
It's a New England tradition is why.
You know, all of a sudden the town clerk decides who's coming in the building and who's not. It's like,
Well, we
Okay.
can put it where.
No, I just-
No, in all fairness, we can put it where, check with the clerk to see if it's available.
I would have thought it would be you, to be honest with you, or whoever sits in your chair. But I just, I'm reading along and all of a sudden it says town clerk shall decide.
Okay.
How did she crop up in here?
So you're the only one that has the draft. Are you going to read that to us, or?
You have a copy of it. It was given to you at the last meeting.
Well, I probably don't have any more.
You'll all fail your homework assignment, because I have mine.
Well,
I don't know what you want to do. You want mine?
Should we just look at it real quickly?
I mean, it seemed fine for me, other than the town clerk.
a good constructive debate moves the situation forward. It's been tried many, thousands of years, people have.
Are you saying we are constructive
Well,
debate or
very,
not?
very
Once in a while.
Constructive disagreements are great.
I'd like to bring up something while Ann's reviewing that, if I may.
Sure.
You're reviewing that, so I wanted to bring something up. This is in regard to the Ed Batchelder coming in the chamber meeting, blah, 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 on the 26th. I think it would be very, very important for at least one or maybe two people to go to this thing. The reason being...
Can you count this too?
Pardon?
Can you count this too?
You know what?
Can you count this too?
Yeah. The reason being, I think we should be active in this. I think this could really help the businesses in Southampton, and we could motivate them to grow. We could send them to these people, and they have a lot of guidance and a lot of very, very good leadership in there to help the businesses. And that's what we need in town. We need businesses